So today we are very blessed, as mentioned by Prof. Shukran, to have two esteemed speakers with us. Ms. Afaf Al-Najjar, who is currently in Han Yunis in Gaza. She used to live in Malaysia before. She's now an English literature student at Al-Aqsa University. She's also a writer with We Are Not Numbers. Yeah, you can check that out later. Recently featured in Harry Fear's live session as her neighborhood evacuated amid ongoing Gaza trauma and death in the middle of the live session. Hopefully that's not going to happen today, inshallah. Also with us, we have Dr. John Molyneux. He taught art, history, and cultural theory for many years at the University of Portsmouth, UK. He has written extensively on art, politics, and society for over 40 years. His recent works include a book titled The Dialectics of Art. He's currently the editor of the Irish Marxist Review. He has been an important voice against war and occupation and for the rights of the refugees and the marginalized groups. He is an advocate for justice for the Palestinian and critic of Israeli apartheid. He is basically currently based in Dublin, Ireland, and mashallah, Ireland is the first country in EU who recognizes Israel's de facto annexation of Palestine, and the Irish government set to vote on an amendment that, if passed, would expel the Israeli ambassador to Ireland and impose sanctions against Israel. So welcome, Ms. Afaf and Dr. Molyneux. Thank you for making time to be with us today. So let's get it straight. We've been talking about the theft of land that has occurred from 1948 after Britain and its allies facilitated its founding in Palestinian territories until now, 2021. What we don't see are the checkpoints, the settlers, the airstrikes, harsh economic and living conditions, the barbaric aggression, the brutality of the soldier, the police, the trauma, the evictions and the degradation of those who somehow still fit in whichever areas left for them. Those who were expelled and never allowed to return face intimidation and silencing for daring to speak about what happened to their families, their friends, their people, the Palestine. Censorship after censorship, systemic censorship, but not going to happen today. Today, the world should learn about not just the recent, but the past Zionist Israeli atrocities on Gaza, not just during the war, but when there's no war, throughout the Israeli occupation of Palestinian land. So at this time, I'm going to hand the floor over to Ms. Afaf Al-Najjar. Afaf, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone who's joining, and thank you for giving me the chance to be here. I'm going to try and start my video, and I hope that the internet helps with that. Okay. Hi everybody. Okay, so let me maybe talk about myself a little bit. My name's Afaf, as mentioned before. I am 18 years old. I'm going to turn 19 in July. I came to Malaysia in 2013 and lived in 2018. So I've lived for a while. And I can say that Malaysian people are some of the sweetest and nicest people I've ever met in my life. And Alhamdulillah, I've been feeling the support and the solidarity of the Malaysian people like ever since I was a little child, because my dad has always had, relations with the Malaysian people. So as you guys know, we are currently under a ceasefire agreement with the Israeli occupation. So the bombing has actually stopped. I think it was on the 21st of May at 2 a.m. It was said that at 2 a.m. the ceasefire is going to start. Unfortunately, a few hours earlier, my family had to evacuate from our house. We had to leave our house because our neighbor got a call saying that our house is going, the whole area actually is going to be heavily bombed. So we were expecting that our house was either going to get bombed or it's going to be very damaged. So it was very unsafe for us to stay there. as the sister mentioned, I was actually in an interview with Harry Fear when it happened. My mom came in my room and she told me that we had to evacuate. And I was standing in my room after I left the meeting. I was standing in my room and I was unable to figure out what things I should take with me and what things I should leave, because every single thing in my room has a lot of memories to it. So I was just standing looking at my belongings and I didn't know what to do. And I swear to God, to you guys, when my mom had to tell me to leave, and until I went back to my house and until I was finally at my room again, I couldn't believe what happened. I was unable to comprehend or understand that we actually left our house. I left the house and we went to a totally different city. I live in Khan Yunis city, which is to the southern, part of Palestine, the Gaza Strip. And I basically had to go to Rafah city, which is like close to the border with the Egyptian people. Um, and we had to stay there until 2 a.m. when the ceasefire started. And we arrived home at 3 a.m. So let me tell you first what basically happened. It started on Monday, the 10th of May, probably the 10th of May. We were still fasting. It was still Ramadan. And instead of actually being able to pray, to get closer to God, we had to be facing the fear of death. We basically didn't have Eid. We didn't celebrate Eid because we were under, explosions and bombings, so we didn't celebrate Eid. It started on Monday and it continued for 11 days. It was continuous for 11 days. The bombing, the explosions, the killing of innocent people. They wounded more than 1,700 people, and they killed more than 230 people, and 65 of these people were children. So they're basically, this is like their target bank. This is who they're targeting. This is who they're killing. They say that they're killing terrorists, as they say. Well, you can see who they're actually killing. They're killing children, they're killing women, they're killing elderly people, they're killing citizens and civilians who have nothing to do with whatever is going on. There has been more than 1,900 airstrikes and shellings over the Gaza Strip, like the whole Gaza Strip. And a lot of times that I was in live videos people would ask me, like, we can't hear anything, because sometimes there was no bombing in my area. And I would say, yes, maybe it's right now, let's say calm in my area or quiet in my area. But at the same time that it's quiet in my area, other areas of the Gaza Strip are being heavily bombed. So it's basically like they're dividing their bombs and shells over the whole Gaza Strip. So, for example, at the first few days, the north of the Gaza Strip was being heavily bombed, and then Gaza, and then they moved to Khan Yunis, and then Rafah, and then back to Gaza. This is basically how they've been doing it. More than 13,000 houses were destroyed. More than 120,000 people were forcibly displaced from their houses. Either they left to their relatives' houses or they went to the UN schools, because the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip have been using the UN schools as shelter, because, well, it's believed to be safer than other places. But unfortunately, before, like in earlier wars and earlier aggressions, the Israeli occupation actually bombed these UN schools, knowing that there are civilians living inside of them or staying inside of them, and they still bombed them. And this, in this aggression, they also said, like the Israeli occupation actually went on and said that they are going to target UN schools. More than 1,474 houses were completely demolished, not damaged, completely demolished. They are basically sit with the ground right now. We unfortunately now have only 3 to 4 hours of electricity every day, because the cables that connect the city with electricity have been damaged because of the bombing. Not only that, but because the Israeli occupation is actually not letting diesel inside the Gaza Strip, which means that electricity generators are not going to work because they need the diesel to work. Not only that, but because we don't have electricity, the water generators in every house are not working. So we basically have to use the water generators in these 3 hours to, let's say, fill the tanks with water. So if we're sleeping, if the electricity comes, for example, at 2 a.m. and we're sleeping, that's it. We don't have water for the rest of the day. So this is basically what we're living because of the siege over the Gaza Strip. Not only the war, but because of the siege as well. They have been targeting residential towers. They have been targeting schools. They have been targeting houses, actual houses for civilians, for citizens who have nothing to do with it. Mosques and universities, they're basically targeting anything that gives life to the Gaza Strip. So that even when the aggression ends, people are not able to, let's say, live normally or carry on a normal life. Now, as you know, the ceasefire started, and the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip are basically going on with their lives right now. They're trying to, cope and live with the losses that they had to endure because of the aggression. I've went to Gaza Strip, to Gaza City yesterday and the day before it, and 2 days before that, we went on a tour around the whole Gaza Strip. So starting from Rafah and until Beit Hanun, which is to the north. And I can't explain to you how bad the destruction is, how big and how terrible the cities have been destroyed and damaged. It was so sad because so many of these places that I went on the tour to were actually places that I have memories in, places that I've been to with my friends, places that I celebrated birthdays, and places that I went to, let's say, went shopping with my friends in. So it was so heartbreaking to see all of that. Not only this, but I also got to interview a couple of people who lost their houses and who lost their relatives, and it was so heartbreaking. Alhamdulillah, I always say that Alhamdulillah, I haven't yet lost any of my family members or friends, and I haven't yet lost my house. Alhamdulillah, I still have a roof over my head. But it's still so heartbreaking to see these people, and it's still so heartbreaking to always be alerted, always be on the run, always know that death is everywhere. Death is around us all the time. So I've actually experienced many wars before this. We had the 2008, 2012, 2014, and 2021. I experienced the 2008 and 2012. I was luckily in Malaysia in 2014, which was actually said to be the worst before this one happened. So people are now saying that the war that happened a few days ago was the worst war that the Gaza Strip has experienced until now. So I can basically say that I almost have a bachelor's degree in war. I almost literally have a bachelor's degree in war. When talking about university, you talk about 4 years of studying. I experienced 4 years of war. I know that I wasn't here in 2014, but my family was here. So I was constantly afraid and worried about my family. Now the destruction is huge. So many people, again, as I said, so many people left their houses. So many people lost their houses, not only left them. The damage is, like, we can say there are houses that are partially damaged and there are houses that are completely demolished. Both of these houses need to be rebuilt. My university had to, let's say, shut down in the time of the aggression. So we weren't studying at all. We weren't studying whatsoever. Although I was supposed to be having my final exams. But because of the aggression, I wasn't able to. And now, unfortunately, my university has pushed all the exams all at once together. So this is basically what the occupation has caused me. Now I have to, let's say, be pressured into studying all of the subjects all at once to be able to take my exams. Now, aside from all the damage and destruction that happened to the Gaza Strip, there is the mental part of the people who are living here. There is the psychological part of what's happening to them. Now, as I said, I live with my mom in my grandparents' house. So there are my brothers here living with us and my cousins as well. And they're all guys, which means there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of noise. They are, just playing all the time. So in my house, we were always used to the noise. We were always used to the fighting of the kids. And it actually gave the house life. It gave the house a lot of life. But in the time of the aggression, we weren't able to hear any sound. Our ears were so sensitive to the point where if someone closes the doors in a specific way that makes a lot of noise, we would all get so annoyed. If one of the kids raises their voice just a little bit, our ears would literally hurt. If a car is passing by our street, we would think it's a rocket. This is how sensitive our ears have become to the sounds around us, and it still is now. The kids, my brother, for example, I'm going to talk about my brother. He's 9 years old, and he was praying Isha with my grandpa and my cousins, and I was in my room preparing for a live video, and I hear knocking on my door. So I was wondering, like, who's here? They're all praying right now, so who could it be? When I opened the door, I saw my brother, and he was crying his heart out. So I asked him, like, are you scared? He said yes. And I know my brother, he's 9. I know that he's 9. I know that he's a kid, but he's not usually scared of the bombing. So I asked him, but you're not usually scared of the bombing? And he goes like, I'm not scared of the bombing. I'm not scared for my life. I'm scared that I might lose one of you. He's 9 and he's this mature. I'm 18, and I say this a lot. I say that I'm scared to lose one of my family members or friends more than I'm scared for my own life. Like, I don't care about my life as much as I care about theirs. So the fact that my little brother thinks that way, for me, it forced me to have more strength. It forced me to do more for the Palestinian cause. Other than that, all the kids in the house, as I said, used to play a lot. Now, each one of them in the aggression, each one of them would be just sticking by his mother's side, sitting on a device, a phone or a laptop, or sleeping. They don't want to play. They don't want to do anything. They just want to stay calm and stay still, which is not something normal, because I know how their nature is. For me, as I said, I lived in Malaysia for a while, almost 5 years. And I was actually preparing myself to study in IIUM, but I had to come back to Palestine at that time. So yeah, when we were in Malaysia, you know, mashallah, Malaysia has a lot of rain, like, throughout the year. And with rain comes the thunder and the, you know, everything, the loud sounds and everything. And even though I was in Malaysia and I knew I was so far from Palestine, I was so far from the Gaza Strip, I thought that this was bombing. I used to think that the sounds were the sounds of bombing. And, you know, sometimes there are the helicopters that go on the sky to, you know, to just clean the cities, let's say, from the bugs and everything, if I remember correctly. I also thought that these were drones that we usually hear in the sky in the Gaza Strip that are actually still continuing. Like, even when there is no war, the drones are always there. So this is basically what's going on right now. Even though there is a ceasefire, this is something that I have to say. Even though there is a ceasefire right now, the Palestinians are not letting their guards down, because before we had ceasefire agreements with the Israeli occupation, and they actually violated the ceasefire, and they started bombing like hours or almost a day or two after the ceasefire. Now people are saying, and the news is saying, that another uprising could happen in the Gaza Strip, because they haven't actually reached to an agreement. Not only this, but they're actually attacking and assaulting the people and the prayers in Al-Aqsa Mosque and in Jerusalem. So they're still doing that. And I believe that if the ceasefire is going to happen, then it's going to happen under specific conditions that are going to make sure that everyone in Palestine, all the Palestinians in every place in Palestine, are going to take the rights. So they're basically already violating the agreement, which means that something might actually happen soon. So this is basically what's happening right now. This is basically how the situation is right now. I could talk about how people can help. I'm not sure if you want me to touch on that right now or for later.
Go ahead.
Okay, so as you guys saw, the war this time, the aggression this time, or the war this time, was not only on ground. It was a social media war as well. You saw how much social media affected the Palestinian cause and what's happening in the Gaza Strip this time. Because for years, the Israeli occupation has been trying to lie to people around the world, to deceive them, and to, let's say, to try and deceive them by the Zionist propaganda that they're trying to use. They've been telling them that they're only bombing, you know, terrorists, that they're only doing this as a way of self-defense and everything. But alhamdulillah, because of social media, people in the Gaza Strip and people around the world are starting to understand more about the Palestinian cause. A lot of people who didn't know about what's happening in the Gaza Strip and in Palestine are starting to research, are starting to understand more, and are starting to now stand in the right side of history. Because I know that the Palestinians are going to make history, and I know that Palestine is going to be liberated. So more people are understanding and witnessing what's going on. So what I want to say is, even though there is a ceasefire right now, you guys should not stop posting about what's happening in Palestine and what's happening in the Gaza Strip. Especially that the Israeli occupation actually uses what happens in the Gaza Strip to, let's say, move the attention of the world to what's happening in Gaza, so they could do everything they want in Jerusalem and the occupied territories. So it's very important to post about all of this. Also, posting has actually made Instagram, for example, at the time of Sheikh Jarrah's cause, it made Instagram apologize and explain why they're blocking some of the hashtags and why they have been deleting some of the content that is related to Palestine. So post all the time, continue posting, even if it's a little hashtag. Every little thing you do actually matters. Also, people who can draw and sing, you can use these creative ways to talk and about Palestine and create content that is related to Palestine. Draw something about Palestine and post it. Sing a song and post it. And people who are able to talk, people who are outspoken, you can go on live videos, you can go on interviews. People who have a big platform, let's say on Instagram or Facebook, interview people from Palestine so that the voices of the Palestinian people can get to the rest of the world. In my opinion, people around the world have been hearing about the Gaza Strip and about Palestine, never from the Palestinians and from the Gaza Strip. So it's time for you guys to hear the stories and hear the experiences from the people who lived these experiences, and not just any news agency that is talking about numbers. People who talk more than one language can translate the news, translate the statistics, translate the stories to these different languages so that the Palestinian cause could reach to a wider audience of people. People who can go on protest, that's very important as well, especially in like Western countries like, the UK, the USA, Europe, Australia, and so on, because the protests actually put a lot of pressure on the governments. And when there is a pressure on the governments will start moving towards what the people want. And therefore, something could actually happen. And the people who are in power could start doing something about what's going on in Palestine. People who can donate, donations are very important, but make sure your donations are going to the right places through the right organizations so that they can reach the Gaza Strip, and so they can, go to the right people and to the right places, so they could be used in let's say, the best way possible. This is basically what I can remember. Oh, boycotting is very important as well, but I believe that a lot of Malaysian people are already boycotting. Boycotting is very important because it puts economic pressure on the Israeli occupation, which weakens them. So yeah, this is basically what I have for now. I would be happy for any questions at the end of the session.